Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Hey guys, it's been a while. We took a good long break there and surprise, surprise, NoBS is back with a brand new video. This time we're talking about yet another director that is attacking his own fan base. That's right. James Mangold is set to direct the new entry in the Indiana Jones franchise, and he's been getting into it with fans on Twitter for the past week, and it is definitely not a good look for the project. But in addition to that, we're also just going to talk about how Indiana Jones 5 is a bad idea to begin with. I mean, this franchise was pretty much put to death in 2008 when they made number 4 that really ruined it. And now they're going to go with 5 anyway, which is kind of upsetting, kind of worrying for a lot of fans. And especially seeing the setup and the premise right now, seeing this director who obviously doesn't appreciate the fan base, considering the fact it's 2021 and Harrison Ford, the actor who plays Indy, is actually almost 80 years old now. So it's not really fitting for that kind of character. We'll talk about why soon. We're going to go over this whole story and more real quick, but first let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsor, who without this sponsor we wouldn't even be having this show today. As some of you know, we were demonetized at the end of last year, so NoBS has not been able to make money for about 6 months now, but thankfully the good friends at PocketNet decided to sponsor this video, so give them a chance and check out this message from them. If you haven't heard, big tech has been on a big ban rampage recently. They'll ban your account, shut down your servers, cut off your payments, and shut down your voices whenever they can. Hey, this happened to our show here. If you haven't heard, they're not sharing our videos anymore. They took away our monetization. Basically, you can't find NoBS even if you're trying to. They won't even send my videos to my own subscribers. So with that said, wouldn't it be great if we could all imagine having a social network that operated kind of like how Bitcoin does, with no corporation behind it and no central servers, and also a place that's ran by the users and impossible to shut down? Well, there is good news. We do have a website and an app for that. It's called PocketNet. It already exists, and only the users decide which content is appropriate for them on PocketNet. When you get high ratings for your content or comments, you earn Pocket Coin for that, and you increase your PocketNet reputation along the way. It's pretty cool, as you can see on this site here. It's kind of a new social media website. There's hashtags, there's places you could post videos, links. Have some fun controlling your own destiny on the internet. Just go to pocketnet.app to join on your own today. Thanks for your time, and now back to the show. That's great. Now back to the story. Today we're talking about James Mangold, as we mentioned before, the director of Indiana Jones 5. As you can see by this article, it says, Director James Mangold throws temper tantrum after fan voices concerns about his upcoming movie. Now, these are actually pretty reasonable concerns. We'll talk about them specifically in a few minutes, but let's talk about Indiana Jones overall again for one more minute. You see, like I mentioned in the intro, Indiana Jones 4, which was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's pretty much one of the worst movies, definitely the worst one in the Indiana Jones series. And you can see lots of videos criticizing that movie, talking about how it doesn't make sense, people making fun of it. It's been happening for years. That was over 10 years ago now that came out. It was a big mess. There was dumb scenes like Indiana Jones surviving an explosion by going in a refrigerator, which was basically the franchise's jumping the shark moment. And in addition, Indiana Jones was just looking very old. And like I mentioned before too, you see, this kind of character, this kind of series, it needs a young, handsome, very fit lead character. These are action movies that need like a big guy like The Rock, John Cena. These former wrestlers are all doing a lot of movies like that now, but there's other guys out there. There's other action guys out there who are young and fit. And this is the kind of situation, as many have mentioned before, if they want to do another Indiana Jones, this is actually more fitting for a sort of reboot option, or having some sort of spin-off like the son of Indiana Jones taking over the franchise, which is kind of what they were going for with the last movie. They brought in someone to play the son of Indiana Jones, but unfortunately it was Shia LaBeouf, and he was swinging with branches and monkeys in one scene. He's not the fit kind of character you're thinking of for this. You need a good guy who could take down some villains and then save the day and maybe get the girl in the end as a little cherry on top. But that's besides the point. Let's talk more about this new entry specifically and why these fans voiced concerns that even caused this director to respond. So the director threw a temper tantrum after a fan voiced their concerns about the film. As you can see, this is the tweet in question, and it gives you a lot of kind of context about why people are worried. And I want to note for the record, it's a very calm tweet. It's just pointing out some problems with the movie setup. Let's go ahead and read it. It says, to anyone thinking Indiana Jones 5 might be good, just let me point out, Steven Spielberg is not directing. He's the original director, great legendary director, did all the indie movies. Kathleen Kennedy is producing. She's the terrible producer that basically ruined in Star Wars. She's the one that said the Force is female and stuff like that. Bad choice right there. Harrison Ford is 78 years old. We mentioned that in the intro. This is not a good look for that kind of character in general. He wasn't doing good with the movie about 12 years ago when they did the last one. Now he's much older. It's not going to work. And in addition, as point 4 mentions right here, it's written by Jonathan Kasdan, who's not all bad, but he did just come off of writing Solo, which was a very, very tumultuous movie, also in the Star Wars franchise. Also worth mentioning the connection between Indiana Jones and Star Wars. I mean, they're just both kind of these concurrent franchises from directors who are friends and kind of helped each other on both movies. I don't know if Spielberg actually helped with Star Wars, but George Lucas, the Star Wars creator, definitely helps on Indiana Jones. He's always been a producer on the projects. I'm not sure if he's coming on for the new one because it's not even going to have Spielberg, but the point is well taken. You got the gif of Justin Timberlake there making the face kind of like, what? Yeah, it's not looking good. These are reasonable concerns, and they're voiced in a pretty calm and collected way. He's just making points. He's not screaming. He's not calling names. He's not getting personal or saying inappropriate things. This Matthew tweet seems like a good setup. It has a lot of the worries that we're all talking about now, but also with that context I just added as reading through it, you can see what we're talking about. Now, here's where we get to the point with the director actually responds to this tweet. Now, that's not something he can't do. We're not trying to say, oh, directors can't get involved with social media, but when you're in this high profile position, you're leading this project with a great big long running fan base, you do need to kind of walk on eggshells, be careful. Don't bash the fans. Just be as nice as you can. If you feel like saying something like this, you probably should just not. But anyway, he says his response was, thanks, Matt. Keep making the world a better place, crapping on things in the first week of production from your basement. Never seen a script by John, nothing against him, just reality. Buttersworth and I started from a blank page. 1 to 3 are hugely talented and all at my side. So he's defending and making points against this original tweet, which I think is indefensible. I don't know why you would say Kathleen Kennedy and Harrison Ford are good to go right now. I mean, Ford is a legend, but he's just past the point where he could play an action star. And this is where things got real out of control for the guy. James Mangold really kind of poked a sleeping bear here. And it's worth noting now that these franchises, especially Indiana Jones and things related to it, similar to it, Star Wars, a lot of the superhero franchises, Batman, Superman, you got to note that they are really dependent on their fan bases. Their fan bases are what keeps them alive, what keeps them going year after year is people that are really hardcore about them. They follow the stories and hype them up even when the movies aren't coming out. And the fact that that's so relevant to this franchise, to Indiana Jones, something that hasn't had a sequel since 2008, the fact that they'll bash people that are worried or concerned about it is just, it's not a good look there. It's not just your regular movie is what I'm trying to point out. It's not just like your regular, oh, this movie's coming out on Friday. There's not really any big names attached to it. It's just something new, like say one of those new animated movies that's based on something new, like the Meet the Mitchells was a new one that came out on Netflix. That doesn't have a fan base problem. That doesn't have this long running history. It's a new franchise. It's a new characters and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of other movies like that. Most movies are like that, but these fan based ones, you got to be careful. That's why people get into trouble like this. And we've seen it in other series too. This has happened repeatedly over the last few years. Different other movies will attack their fans. I'm thinking coming to mind right away, Ghostbusters was a big one in 2016. They started attacking their fans because they didn't like the premise and the way it was set up. People made calm and collected criticisms of that, and then they were attacked and they were called sexist or losers or homophobic or whatever it may be. And it's similar here. It hasn't gotten that heated yet, but him saying they're in a basement is kind of like the main insult, crapping on things from your basement, just saying they're basement dwellers, like, oh, you didn't do nothing with your life, saying they're losers, saying they're things like that is what the director is implying. And on top of that, I think it's worth noting more about James Mangold right now. He's a pretty rich and famous Hollywood director, not the biggest name. Most people probably don't recognize the name unless you're looking for directors' names and credits and you're bigger movie buff like someone like me or my friends. But basically, he's worked on lots of cool movies. He did the Wolverine movie, Logan. He's done movies with Tom Cruise. He's gotten awards and all kinds of stuff like that. Like James Mangold is huge and set. He's not some up and comer. He's like Hollywood establishment coming down and striking down a fan who criticizes him. It looks really bad. It's punching down, as they would say. And I can see why people are kind of talking about this. Here it says Mangold wouldn't stop there. He would continue to insult and deride Kaddish and his podcast team, The Salty Nerd. The Salty Nerd would tweet, we don't have basements, but we do have a studio with a Batman statue. That's pretty cool. So this is some kind of podcast. These are kinds of people that are going to be into movies movies like this. These are moviegoers. These are fans. These are people that talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Obviously, they have a Batman statue, a nerd-themed podcast. I'm sure Indiana Jones would come up on there in certain situations, especially with a new movie coming out. But now they're being attacked by this director in charge of the new movie, which is really strange. Mangold replied, "Yeah, that's a studio. Congrats on the statue and the jar of corks. So how about you let me finish the film and then all you want in front of your vinyl bricks lit by your fancy bounce slide, and maybe don't call your opinion news." So he's kind of doubling down right there. That's a double down. He described Kadish as a clickbaiter and a night crawler. He wrote in response to Twitter, user encouraged him, "Thanks, Axe. I don't mind people griping and prognosticating, but on my watch, false info, ageism, and snark and so-called journalist is going to be confronted directly and forcefully." Mangold added, "In my opinion, these clickbaiters like to dish it out, but the night crawlers can't stand the light." So he's kind of just acting like some kind of victim, like, oh, he's a poor victim being attacked. I don't see any false info, though. I don't know what's false about the tweet. Ageism is an interesting claim. So he's basically getting the whole kind of, you're a sexist, you're a racist, you're an ageist or a homophobe. Those are typical descriptors that these kinds of Hollywood elitists would throw at people to try to shame them, try to make them look bad. But yeah, I don't see any false info here. It seems like the false info was this guy's not the writer. John, he said he never saw a script from John and he's not the writer. So correcting that does have some merit. I understand they don't want the wrong info out there, but he definitely did it in the wrong way. I don't know where this mistake came from. Maybe it was a confusion or the wrong name, or the person got the story from someone that released it too soon. I'm not sure what's going on with that. It's not really a big deal. The bigger deal is the response and this big Hollywood director going after the fans. I have a feeling this new Indiana Jones movie is not going to do well. It's not a good start. It could have a chance. I'm not saying I won't watch it. I watch all these kinds of movies though, so I'm not a good barometer for that kind of thing, but I'm curious. I like Indiana Jones as much as the next guy, but after the last one, it's not looking good. After this response from the director and the setup, it's not going to be fun. So with that said, that about wraps things up. Hope you guys enjoyed this new video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Tell me what you think about the new Indiana Jones movie. Tell me what you think about this director and his over-the-top response that I think went too far. He could have just corrected the name of the writer and then moved on. Maybe say, hey, this isn't the writer. That's it. You don't need to be so brutal, so attacking of the fans of podcasts and people that support your work. So that about wraps it up. Thanks again for watching. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video.